Good morning. Morning. All right. Welcome everyone to the Toronto Spirit Society. Welcome those who are watching us through Fab TV or Facebook. We continue with our studies of planetary transition. This is the month where we pick a theme about planetary transition. And today we continue with those studies. But before we get into the lecture, I would like to invite our dear friend Catarina to do the initial reading, the prayer, and then we'll start with the lecture, which today is about moral persons. And then we will understand why moral person is related to planetary transition, right? You may be asking, what does it have to do with that? So I will be back in a few minutes. Catarina, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you, everyone. It's been a while I've been here. And that's a very interesting message I picked. Again, I think it's for myself. Do all you can to keep your health. Many illnesses are caused by maladjusted temperaments, emotions out of alignment, or negative spiritual influences. Anxiety, fear, pessimism, anger, jealousy, and hatred are responsible for disease yet to be catalogued and undermine physical, emotional, and mental health. Try to keep calm, cultivating good thoughts that will provide you with inestimable benefits. As you are mentally, so will be your existence. So let's close our eyes and bring the message of healthy today. And start with an appreciation thought before the lecture today. Appreciation for everything that we have, including the illness, but especially the health we have at this moment. As I was talking just before, little things that we have in life, like being able to walk, to run, to drink a big glass of water, sometimes you can. So let's appreciate everything that we're capable of doing today, no matter how small or big it is. Let's be appreciative today and bring this light to our hearts so it can keep us healthy and strong for one more week, and send a little bit of this light to our friend Diclei, who's going to give us a lesson today. And so be it.
Yes, it's me again. We have quite a few people traveling away, participating in events, busy with family matters. That's why it's just myself at this very beginning. So as I was saying, what does moral persons has to do with the planetary transition? Any guess? Moral persons in Portuguese is what we call o homem de bem, ou a mulher de bem. Right? And when we think about planetary transition, as we study with Marcos Diclei at the very beginning of this month, he spoke about the different stages that the worlds advance to be able to accommodate the different stages that we also advance, right?
As we evolve, the planet evolves.
Exactly, as we evolve, the planet evolves. So our planet, humanity, is evolving closer to what we call moral persons, who are those who actually live and breathe the laws of God at every second of the day, 24/7. Not only within the churches, but anywhere they are, right? So that's why the topic is very, very related. Last week, we had Denise talking about family. Well, what does family have to do with planetary transition, right? Well, family is the core of society, and we'll touch a little bit about this in a moment, right? Is where we learn our first lessons. And if we talk about our moral evolution, good morning, welcome. If we talk about our moral evolution, family is a very key aspect of it, and we all experience that, right, in different levels. So we'll talk today about being a moral person, and I think it's a hard goal to be a moral person, right? It's not an easy thing. Therefore, I came up with how to become a moral person in 490 simple and easy steps. How about that? So now it's 11 a.m. So maybe Tuesday, end of the day, we'll finish a bird's eye view on those 490 easy steps. I am kidding. So if you're watching through the internet and about to move away, I'm kidding. Scratch that. But we'll go through what are the characteristics of a moral person, and what do we do to get there, right? I think that's an important thing to do. We usually, we think about our lives on earth as and question the objective of it, right? And we discussed about this before. What's our goal in life? So by reading a little bit about Jesus, many other religions actually beyond Christianity, even the Spiritism, we learn that our moral improvement is at the center of it, right? At the end of the day, we want to become better. However, because of our own aspirations, our pride that we all have, we want something bigger than this, because no one sees this. You becoming a moral person, a better person, that's too small. I must have been born for something big, and we want to be the next Mother Teresa, someone like Chico Xavier. If you're a Spiritist, I want to be famous like Chico Xavier. If you are into the sciences, I want to discover some breakthrough, thinking like an Albert Einstein. I want to be something big. It has to be something big. The meaning of a life needs to be big. In some cases, it could be our mission, our call, and we have that in our mind. But in most cases, it's really our pride speaking up. And I speak about it by experience, because that was my thinking a few years ago. What is it that I'm here for? And then it took me a while to understand that, this is it. I'm here to become a moral person. Right? But we have so many aspirations. I want to be like Divaldo Franco, helping thousands of people in the community over there in Bahia. And even himself said, you want to do that? Start adopting one child. Start with one. And we'll see where that will go. Maybe your mission is really to go through your moral evolution and help that one children. If it's to have more, it will come when the time comes, right? And because of our aspirations, and those aspirations don't come to life very easily, or takes a lot of time, or may not come to life, we really feel a big failure, right? And it doesn't help us, because it becomes a downward spiral within our minds, because we see people flourishing in different areas and we want to be like them. And when we look at ourselves and things are not happening, and we see our struggles, and then we find a doctrine, a philosophy, or religion that give us a little bit of hope, and we say, I want to follow that. And then when you talk to a co-worker, you say, what's wrong with you, right? So people not easily welcome our efforts to become a moral person, right? If you ever stop smoking once in your lifetime, you know what I mean, right? You go and hang out with your friends, just say, hey, do you want a cigarette? No, I'm okay. Are you stop smoking? Come on. And then you just try to push you down naturally, right? Maybe not even bad intention, but they want you with them is attraction, right? So if you are into pornography, and all of a sudden you realize that it's causing more damage than benefit to your life, and you stop, and then someone can be, hey, look at this, let's buy. So no, let's talk about something else. What's wrong with you? Right? And then we question ourselves, because so many people are going a different direction, and we are trying to go into the other direction. Instead of having confidence in ourselves, we doubt ourselves. And a lot of times we just gave up along the way, right? And that's why we feel a big failure. It's not easy to follow the path. That's why Jesus spoke about the narrow door, because the wide door is actually the door of the facilities of the world, and corruption and crime and sexual abuse, which is in the TV every day, right? Recently. But the door of honesty, the door of respecting, right? Treating women like men, treating people with different sexual orientations like any other else, treating a black person as a white person, as a Japanese person, as an Indian person. It's not very well received still, unfortunately. And I think most importantly, for all the challenges that we face when we are trying to improve and become a moral person and become a true Christian or a true Spiritist, right? Is actually ourselves. Chico Xavier used to say that our worst obsessors or enemies are actually ourselves, because of our selfishness and pride. We are never happy. We're never happy. Katarina was reading here in the initial prayer about being grateful, right? And I remember being a teenager, something on my nail was the end of the world, right? For teenagers, someone look you straight at the high school, someone look you differently in the high school is the end of the world. It's like when you cut something in your gun that looks ginormous, but it's just a tiny bit, right? So we are like that. Sometimes the small cuts and challenges along the way is so big. But no one really cares at the end, but we do. We don't give ourselves the right to fail because we think we are so good and so big and we deserve so much that we cannot fail. It's not even that people expect too much from us sometimes. We expect too much from us. And then we abandon the journey. We say, you know what? That's who I am. I'll never be able to do it. And then the pressure comes along the way, and negative thoughts, and complaining. And I was talking about your message. We only see what we do not have. We don't appreciate what we actually have, right? And that's why we will never get to those 400 easy steps to become a moral person. Maybe we need to pick one thing, right? What is the one thing that really hurts me day in and day out? That is really a roadblock for me to become something better, someone more positive, someone more appreciative of life? What is that one thing? I don't know. Well, that's why we need to observe ourselves, right? Let's do a little bit of analysis, maybe a diary, right? Saint Augustine on the Spirit's book, he gives a message over there, 919A or B, when he talks about self-discovery. He says at the end of every day, you make a little diary. What did you think during that day, good or bad? And just make a little diary, keep it to yourself, and once in a while go and start reading. What happened on Monday, what happened on Tuesday? Then we'll pick a trend and say, hey, this is what's happening with me. And then ask, why is that? Is it because my colleagues told me that? It's because my boss told me that? Or it's because I am taking it out of proportion. Right? And very often we take things out of proportion. Right? So that's a good start, and we always need to put ourselves in the driver's seat of why we feel like failure. And before we advance, let's think about Jesus Christ, who is the governor of our planet, right? Even before the planet was formed, he's responsible for multiple planets, actually. And when he came here, what did we think of him? A big failure, right? People wanted him to get along with the politicians. They expect him to be the king that would bring arms, right? The army actually to conquer the world physically, politically. He didn't do none of that. Even the disciples felt pretty disappointed. Excuse me. Even the disciples at some point felt pretty disappointed with him. But you were letting them talk to you like this. So the world see those things as failure, but he was no failure at all. And we should not see ourselves as failures at all. It's just part of our challenge. What we would expect after so many incarnations feeding our vices, would we expect that we could do like a blink of an eye, like Harry Potter, just pointing the wand and right? It's not like that. It takes time. It's way harder to build a tall skyscraper than to just tear it down, right? A few seconds and a few explosives is enough to put the CN tower down. But to build it, it takes a long time. So are we to become a moral person. It takes time. It takes time. So I want to make sure we set the tone, because often, if we go to the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is where this content is, right? Chapter 17, 19.3, we'll go through that list a little bit. What are the characteristics of a moral person? And we just, I can't do that. Because it's hard. And we want to do it today. We want to do it now. We want to read it and feel like Supergirl, Superman. It's not going to happen. We'll have to go to that struggle every day. Like Paul of Tarsus and his inner battle, right? He finally accepted Christianity. He understood the message of Jesus. And he often has written to the community saying, when I want to do good, I do evil. By evil means bad things or my vices. They still come up. I want to say something good and I think something negative of someone. Or I may say something. It's the inner battle. That's the transformation, right? The planetary transition that is happening, it needs to happen in our hearts. And it's the daily struggle. I think the Chinese has a symbol, right? The yin and yang, right? The good and the negative. If you go to the movies, to the superhero stories, there's always the hero and the villain, right? That's our nature. That's our nature. We have the good and the bad. There is even a little tale from one of the North America Indian tribes about the two wolves, right? So they say the human beings have two wolves. Welcome. Two wolves within battle with each other. A good wolf that is trying to defend itself but standing for the positive things, and a bad wolf who just want to be dominant for the sake of being dominant and destroy and kill. And then, this was the chief talking to his tribe, and someone asked, well, okay, we have this battle, but who wins? Which wolf wins? And he says, the wolf you feed. So if you want to become a moral person, so if you want that good battle to win, we gotta feed positive things, like gratitude. But we often look at the things that we don't have and we feed negativity, and things just get worse. So it's a daily exercise. It's minute by minute, right? It's really observing yourselves and trying to put positive things and remove the negative things. And maybe by the end of our lifetime, we'll have improved a little bit, right? Or maybe by next week, we'll feel better a little bit. But we are not going to become a Jesus Christ on this incarnation, or a Mother Teresa in this incarnation, or a Chico Xavier, or a Diva. We are ourselves. And that's a good thing. We should feel happy. Because God created us at the end of the day, right? And God does not create anything useless. God doesn't waste time. He creates things destined to perfection. So that's who we are. We should remember that. Instead of only looking at the things that we don't have, the failures, right? So I wanted to bring this at the very beginning, because all of us, we can open the gospel and start reading about the characteristics of a moral person. But I feel, as a personal exercise to me, and an exercise to all of you, those who are also watching, we need to remember that. We are not perfect. Things are not going to happen from one day to the other. And we need to remember when Allan Kardec asked the spirits, what are the characteristics? How do we identify a true spiritist? Does anyone remember the answer that we received? Is it by the perfection? Oh, if you see someone perfect, that is a true spiritist. No, they didn't say that. They say, you see a true spiritist, or you should consider yourself a true spiritist, or a true Christian, which is the same thing at the end, by the efforts that person employs to become better every day. By the efforts. It doesn't mean that it is only by the successes. If we fail, it's a good thing. We're trying something. We are applying effort, and we are learning. So we are very afraid of failure, but even in the business world, people are welcoming failure more than ever, because I think we are finally getting it. Because what is better? That you try to innovate and do something different, even if you fail, you learn from it. Oh, that's not the way we should do it. Why did we fail? Let's try a different way. Or we should just step aside and say, I'm not going to try it because I may fail. So we will be stagnant. And the law of progress says that no one stays stagnant in the universe, right? We always advance. We may take a pause, but life gives us a little push. Pain gives us a little bit push until we finally move. So even in the business world, people are understanding that nowadays. And we should have that understanding as well. It's okay to fail. Bless you. But the most important thing is, what can I learn from this failure? What can I learn, right? Why did I fail? What can I do differently next time? Try not to fail in all aspects. And then when we think about moral person, I thought, what is the best way for us to talk about moral person? So bring this to life. And we thought about Jesus. We were just saying about how he came, and we thought he was really a failure, and many people still think he's a failure. He's even a legend. He was not even here. Did not even exist. Right? But when we look at Jesus, he was actually victorious, because he accomplished his mission. He sacrificed himself to the extreme for the love of us. He didn't need to show that he was great. So he started, in a very humble beginning. He didn't have to show anything to anyone. He was so great that he had to make himself as humble as possible, so he wouldn't humiliate us. Because if he'd show up as that perfect being, enlightened, we would feel even worse, right? Even reading about the moral person, we feel bad. Imagine seeing him, his grandiosity, we will get discouraged right away. So he humbled himself. And he gave us a lesson that it is really not where we are that matters, or what we do that matters. It's really where we are going to. That journey to perfection, our desire to go, our efforts to improve it, that's what really matters. And unfortunately, we had a hard time with that as well, right? Even at the Spiritist centers or in the churches sometimes, we judge each other by the diploma. Right? Well, who is that person giving that lecture? What is his diploma? Is he a PhD? Is he a master? What is he? Because if he doesn't, may not be a person that should be there talking. What was Jesus' PhD? Son of a carpenter. And people did that to him, right? Isn't that Jesus, that young fella that works with Jose and the carpentry over there? Who is he to talk about God and the universe and all those things? Right? And we still do that nowadays. We see someone cleaning the street, right? Picking up the garbage, or the homeless, and we think we are better than they are. Who knows? We are immortal spirits, immortal souls. Maybe it's a trial that the person asked to practice humbleness, and maybe it will be a shiny spirit, right? Way evolved than us, and will be red in our face when we realize that. But that's how it is. We look at the things as we see. And that's why we feel so bad when we try to make our self-improvement towards become a moral person one day. So we should remember what Jesus led us as a lesson, right? It's not where you are, it's really where you were going. Where you are going to be in the future. Or how you do things today. Oh, I'm just here working at the Tim Hortons. My life is a failure. I have a hard time paying the bills at the end of the day. And we don't understand, and we want that big mission. Well, maybe that's the mission for us. Maybe that's the mission to be humble, to learn to be grateful for what we have, and not be in a hospital, or not be in the streets, right? And also, how do we practice the virtues of a moral person? Because if we wait for greatness to become someone more connected to God and spirituality, that may never happen. If we wait for the 649 to come to the Spiritist Center and practice charity, forget about it. How many people win? What's the chance? 1 in a billion? It's not going to happen. Right? So we are where we need to be. Right? That humble work is there to teach us something or to protect us from something. Right? I personally struggle for years. Why do we work for a bank? I'm wasting my incarnation because that's not the purpose, to help the shareholders of my company to become, what am I doing with my time? That's the crisis of the 30s, right? I passed the 30s already. I resolved that crisis. I already accepted. But that was the pride. And at the same time, the desire to do good, right? What I'm doing with my time. Okay, that's a fair question. I want to, maybe work for a non-profit or be a doctor and release the pain of people. That's all good things. But who knows the lessons that I need to learn in a financial institution? And there are many lessons there. How are the lessons that I need to working the Tim Hortons, on the public service, right? Or as a lawyer, or as a programmer, a computer programmer. We always have a lesson to learn wherever we are. And again, we are not grateful. We don't see things with the eyes of right? With the eyes of immortality. It would be pretty easy for us. Oh, now I know why I'm here. Okay, I will accept that. No, we don't see it because it's to become our merit. If you decided to accept or reject, it's your choice. It's our free will. That's how we become mature. That's how we evolve. Right? So we should always remember that. It's really about the destination, the journey, how we do the things that we do. Because you may be cleaning the street complaining, kicking the animals that you find around, just piling the garbage, right? Being very rude with people. Or you would be happy with your life and smiling at people and doing the best that you can. It's our choice. It's our choice. That choice is a signal if we are in the right path to that journey. Right? Think about Chico Xavier. He's been working for Jesus for millennia. And he was there as a public servant, working his humble work, and still doing all the work that he did behind the scenes. Right? And people just ignored him, neglected him. And he enlightened so much. Right? So it's big lessons for us that I wanted to bring. And there's more. Jesus itself, he commands us to perfection. Look at the tense here. Remember my English classes, right? Let's see the tenses. This is an imperative tense, if I remember well. I was a bad student, but be perfect. He's not only inviting us, but he's encouraging us. Almost as commanding. He never forces. God never forces to anything. But this is an indication for us that, there's hope. We will get there as he got there. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is. Obviously, we'll never be perfect as God is. Otherwise, how many gods would be, right? But we'll get to the relative perfection that is allowed to us. And what is that relative perfection? Anyone can guess? The perfection of Jesus. What? We'll be Jesus one day? Yeah, we'll get to his level one day. Is next incarnation ready? Likely not. Will take a while. Or a lot of time. But we'll get there one day. Right? So, Allan Kardec asked the spirits in the Spirits book, question 625. Welcome. what is the model, what is the guide that God granted us to inspire us, right? So that we can aspire to become like him or her. And he said, look at, that's the answer. Look at Jesus. Look at what he did, what he said, who he is. That's the answer. And I was talking to someone another day about how do we apply efforts actually to improve, right? And I told that person, I'm sharing that with you here. I just said, well, sometimes I think what I want to think, or what I'm thinking, or what I want to say, or what do I want to do, or where do I want to go. I think, would Jesus go with me? Just imagine him with me. And would he do that? I said, well, likely not. So I better not do that. Yeah, he would do it. So just go and do it. So it's a very simple, you may even say childish way of thinking. But, sometimes that's all we need. That simplicity. It's very simple, right? And people say, what? You really saying that? I cannot believe you're saying that. How dare you to imagine Jesus on your side? As if I was putting myself at this level. Not at all. But look at what he did. He came to us, right? He came to us. He made himself humble. And he is the model. He is the model for us. So why wouldn't we think, what he would think of what I do? Actually, it's the only thing we should care. What Jesus think of what we are doing. Because sometimes our bosses at work, our neighbors, even our family members sometimes, they don't understand what we are doing. Right? They may have a totally different view, and we shouldn't worry too much what they may think. I personally really worry what Jesus would think of what I do. So when I just did that little tool to think what would he do, it's really to, put myself in the right mindset. But I'll never think I'm going up to him. Never. It will never have that expectation, right? But that's how people misunderstand that, right? We should go for him. You should go for him, right? We should think of what he would do. We shouldn't think about, I remember in my teens, who is my idol? I love Michael Jackson. I want to be like Michael Jackson, right? Or because of bullying, no, I want to be like Rocky Balboa. I'm giving out my age here, right? So we may say today, it's Taylor Swift, or it's this or that. Obviously not Donald Trump. I know you're going to say that. But everyone is, it's subject to failure because we're not perfect. So we need to be careful, right? We may say, I want to be like my father. Yes, personally, my father gave me a lot of examples, but he wasn't perfect neither. I can look up to him in many things, absolutely. But that's why the Spirit gave us the core, the pure example. It's Jesus, right? So we should look up to him. It doesn't say that we are putting ourselves at his level. This is an absurd at our level on earth. But we should look up to good people. And what is the better model than a spotless model? Because if we look up to each other here, I want to be like Felipe, I want to be like Diclei. No, we both have a lot of, we all have failures here. So we need to be a bit careful with that, right? If we see a virtue, okay, let's get that virtue, but let's not put ourselves in a position of perfection because we speak at the Spiritist Center. We are full of failures and virtues. Jesus is the perfection. That's why he said, I am the way, right? I am the way, the life. Sou o caminho, a verdade e a vida. I am the way, the truth, and the life. He is. He even told the disciples, do not call anyone else teacher. I am the only one. In the Last Supper, I was impressed to hear that. And that's what he said. Because he is the perfection, the pure example that we should aspire to be like one day. Right? So it's very, very important. So do not be afraid to bring Jesus to your side. Do that as often as you can. When things are tough in the office, take a break, go to the washroom and imagine him with you. What? Imagine Jesus in the washroom with me? Are you nuts? It's a lack of respect. It's not a lack of respect. People, the spirits, especially the spirits, they don't care about material things. They don't care where. They care about what's in your heart. You know that difficult meeting where people were very negative? Bring Jesus with you. What would he do here? Pray for them. We don't need to tell anyone, because if you do that, oh, don't sit here, please. I saved the seat for Jesus. Then, my friend, they will send you to HR and they will bring a psychologist to talk to you. Don't do that. That's not what I'm saying. But I think you got what I'm saying, right? In your heart, in your mind, they won't see it, at least the incarnate, right? And that's how we practice Christianity, being a woman or a man of good, or a woman and a man, a moral person actually, is to do these things anywhere. It's pretty easy to be a Christian inside a church like this one. Everyone is nice, right? We give the passes, we pray. Out there, that's where we prove ourselves. That's where our tests are. And those tests are not to make us feel miserable. Those tests are to teach us lessons and make us better. Right? Very, very important. So if we look at Jesus, he walked the walk, which means everything he came to teach, he actually did. He did it all. Who wrote the gospel? Wasn't Jesus. He didn't write a single word. Well, he may have written on the sand, that we know that parable, but he didn't leave a book. So here's everything that I taught you. Study. If someone burned that book, forget about it. And look at what we did with the words in the gospel. There's so many adulterations and changes, right? So he brought the knowledge to the human heart. There's no rust can destroy, no one can steal, right? And it's here until today and will continue forever, right? We can look at his examples. When he was born, we were talking about humble beginnings. He was born among the animals. There was no place for his mom actually to give birth. Think about ourselves. You go to the hospital all full, and then you go to a bus stop and you give birth there. It's an example. The animals around, dirty places, no hygiene, basic hygiene. Why did he choose that? He could have been born in a palace. He wanted to teach us that for the lowest we may be, we can come out of that and fulfill our mission. To be great, to be happy. That's our mission ultimately, to be perfect. Since the very beginning, his example to us. So when we feel miserable, bring him close to you. Let's bring him close to us and remember that. Right? And then in the book Boa Nova, we don't have time to go to, but there's a lesson over there of his mom Maria talking to her, I think cousin Martha, right? Sister Martha, about Jesus and John the Baptist. And she was saying she was afraid of what would happen with Jesus because 10 years old, 13 years old, he was just walking on the street talking to the travelers about his connection with God. He would talk to the beggars, give them hope. 13 years old, and said, I'm afraid what's going to happen with this boy, right? And she decided to put him on a school in the temple, right? Let's put him on the church so that the doctors of law will actually guide him. And she talked to someone without telling Jesus. She came back home. Next day in the morning, everybody there preparing the breakfast. There comes Jesus. Mom, what do you want from me? He knew already. So what do you mean? Don't you see that I already am living connected with God? Why do you worry so much? Why do you want me to put on that school? I don't need to go there and learn those things because I already learned and live that. I have that with me. I would rather choose the good school. And what is the good school that he chose? Home, his family. He started to work with his father. He went to his father. That's words of Humberto de Campos, right? He humbly asked his father, Father, can I work with you? Can I help you in your work? His father was a carpenter, right? He used to build cabinets and furniture houses. And that's how he started. And here's us. Why do I work for McDonald's? Why do I work for the city of Toronto? Why I am at home and do not work? Why I'm just a mom or just a dad? Why is that? That's so low. There must be something bigger for me. Jesus could go to the bigger stuff. He chose home because he knew that there were lessons that he wouldn't learn anywhere else from Mary, from John. He brought joy to his house, and ultimately he served his house as well. That's the other thing. We always think about what I'm gaining on that place. We don't think what I am giving in that place. Right? What I'm giving to my family by not working and stay at home because of the circumstances. Moving to Canada, I do not speak English properly, so I don't have my first job yet, so I'm still at home. Feel like a waste of your time? No. We do have lessons to learn and contributions to make, right? So there's a lot we can talk about Jesus between the 13 and his 30 years old before he actually commenced his efforts to go out there, reach out to community, make his cures, right? And he started actually with the wedding of Cana, transforming water and wine. And when he did that the first time, Peter came to me, Master, there's something wrong here. You giving these people alcohol, so you making them drunk. Is that a good way to start? Right? And I was listening to our older ones talking about this, and he said, that's the kind of question of someone who think but do not feel. And I found that very interesting. Because the wedding was from Jesus' friend. And what was more important to Jesus than be serving a friend and seeing his friends happy. So he did that to make them happy and to serve his friends. He didn't to make them drunk. That's only everyone's accountability for that, right? But Peter was only using his brain. That will make them drunk. What are you doing? And that's what we think usually, right? We don't think about making people happy, giving people a little phone call, giving them attention. So there's a lot we could talk about here. I'm not, but serving people was in Jesus' mind constantly every day. Right? Those who criticized and persecuted him, he reciprocated with love. I saw this very interesting on the internet. It's nothing to do with Chico Xavier and André Luiz, but Daniel Godry is a person from Brazil. He's a speaker, motivation speaker, sales speaking person. And he was in a place where there is a lighthouse. And he was talking about the lighthouse, and I connected with this. When we talk about friends, how many people God puts in our lives to guide us like a lighthouse? I'm pretty sure if you make an effort right now, every single one of you, I did that effort, and I saw so many people that along the way gave myself and my family a hand in the times that we needed. People that came out of nowhere, right? And you could think in your job, in your neighborhood, a stranger in the public transportation, in a church, a new family member that came. Throughout our life, we had so many people giving us a hand, and we don't stop to appreciate that. That's our guardian angels, the good spirits supporting us along the journey with our challenges. Right? And he was saying, why don't you pick up the phone and call those people and let them know that you didn't forget about them and you appreciate everything that they did for you. And that's really true. We don't think about it. Right? So big lesson for us on gratitude. And for Jesus, he was and he is this lighthouse for us. Right? Guiding us. You know, as the lighthouse helps the boats, the ships not to hit the rocks, he is there guiding us as well. Right? Do you want to avoid hitting the rocks and having more pain in life? Do you want to advance to become a moral person? Do to others what you would like others to do unto you. That's one thing. Right? his characteristics, everywhere you read Jesus eating with disciples, he was doing what? Sharing the bread. He was the one that wanted to share, to give. At the Last Supper, he even washed the disciples' feet as the slaves. As the slaves at that time used to do that. Right? There were non-Jewish, even the Jewish couldn't do it, because it was so low that they had to have a slave doing that. There goes the governor of the planet going down and washing their feet. A work that it was only for the slaves. And the disciple, what are you doing? I'm teaching you. Do you want to be the biggest and the greatest? Do you want to be a moral person? Be the lowest. Be the one that serves everyone. And we have a hard time doing that in our families. Right? When things are on the floor, hey, gotta pick this up. Sometimes I do that with Livia to teach her. But should I be doing this? Yeah, go and do it yourself. Right? The Spirit is the center. Just serve. And we complain too much. I feel we should serve more, as he did. Right? And he was there with all his disciples. He knew that they would fled from him. And that's the other thing. Sometimes we hold ourselves too much because we are afraid of people betraying us, not understanding us, leaving us. You love people and they leave. Well, what is better? That we are betrayed and people leave us, or we actually do that for others? We did that too many times already. So now is the time that it will happen with us eventually. And that's for our learning. And it's a tool for us to learn to forgive, to tolerate, to accept others. And that's what Jesus did, right? Everyone that he loved, all those that he cured, everyone that he taught, he carried, spiritually speaking, fled from him, abandoned him, except his mom and John the Evangelist. They were the only two that were there on the cross. Maria Magdalena, thanks for reminding me. Everyone else, he looked around, not one of those person who had leper or the prostitutes that he, took out of that, slavery. No one was there. Did he feel bad about it? He said, Humberto Campos talk about it. He said, I really don't care or don't mind about people abandoning, leaving, because no one can take from me the most important thing, the happiness of serving, the happiness of doing the best I can for everyone else. This, no one can take from me. I don't care if they don't reciprocate, they don't love me back. What I care is that I love them. What I care is I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing my effort to fulfill my mission and become better. And we have a hard time with this. We become defensive, right? Talk about work. How many times we go to meetings and people feel like they have rocks in their hands just ready. One word each. And sometimes we feel that way. And I think we should start dropping them and give them positivity. Smile at them. That's charity to begin with. That is service to begin with, right? So Jesus was alone. He was a loser for the word, but he wasn't, right? His message was so beautiful of overcoming struggle and doing the best that you can without caring if people will comprehend you or not. Right? And at the very final moments, he even told God when they, spit on him and still put the spears on his chest and gave bad words to him, he said, God, forgive them for what they are doing, for assassinating me and not understanding my message. They don't know what they are doing. Even at the very moment, he prayed for all of us if we were there, right? So that's the extreme example of how to be a moral person in every single second of every day of every year. Now, should we feel bad because we cannot do what Jesus do? If someone just give us the wrong coffee at the Tim Hortons, hey, that's not what I asked for. Oh, I lost my temper again. So that's the inner battle. We will continue to fail, but the important is, oops, I should have said that. I'm sorry. right? Or at least next time, try not to do that. Right? Or find your technique, count to 10. Like Chico Xavier, do you want to say something bad to someone and offend someone? Take a sip of water. Keep the water in your mouth until you can speak, otherwise you just pour water everywhere, right? But hold it there until that desire, your heart stops beating, your anger goes away. Find a technique, but that's the inner struggle, and it's natural, and it's a good thing. Because not very long ago, we would feel pretty comfortable swearing and saying bad words, and we would go home, we wouldn't care. We wouldn't even realize that we hurt someone. Today we do. Today we feel ashamed. I wish I didn't do it. That's already a sign of progress. That's a good thing. But what we need to do is, let's look at that good thing and let's try not to do again. Right? So we brought here one example, the example of a moral person. And we should bring him to us. Skipping this. I'll go back to this. Here's from John. Another illustration that this thinking is right. See what Jesus himself said. I am the vine, you are the branches. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, he can do nothing. So how can't we bring Jesus close to us in our hearts, through his messages? We have to. We have to be as a branch of his vine. Right? His examples needs to flow to us. We need to feel connected with him. If we disconnect, we can do nothing. Forget about inner transformation and moral person, or the transformation of our planet. Forget about it. We have to be connected with him every single moment, every single day. He is the example for us. So here's the list. It's not 490, but a list of the characteristics of moral persons. And I purposely didn't want to go through every, because you all can read and meditate. But I want to give at the very beginning, try to remove this roadblock that we put, feel incompetent and miserable, and not desire to pursue this. I hope that this conversation actually helped every single one of us to see that some of these roadblocks are created by ourselves. Now the homework for all of us is go to the internet, open up your Spirit's book or Gospel According to Spiritism, and take a read at home with your family, right? And a few characteristics here. I'm just going through this very quickly, right? Practice the law of justice, love, and charity, which seems everything, right? But in the Gospel According to Spiritism, there are a few things. And one of those things is, look at your day and think about, have you lived this? Have you failed? Or have you actually succeed? If you succeed, feel good about it. If you fail, or feel good that you acknowledge that and try not to repeat that tomorrow. And there are a few things over there. But the most important characteristic here is self-awareness. The moral person is constantly monitoring herself or himself. Right? I'm not monitoring the neighbors, how we usually do. No, monitors ourselves. Faith in God in the future, resignation. It's a kind person, right? Just to remind us to smile more, maybe. That's a good way of kindness. It's humane and benevolent. Tolerance. Forgive and forget. Right? Indulgent toward others' weaknesses. And we are the opposite, right? We are very indulgent with our weaknesses, but we are very hard on everyone else's failure. We need to invert that. We should be more rigorous with ourselves and more indulgent with others. We can't change others, but we can change ourselves. And a humble person. So, in some of those scenes and episodes from Jesus' story that we just finished, I think we can see many of this. Right? Many of them. That's why he is the example for us. That's why he is the governor of the planet. And that's why it's not a sign of pride if we bring Jesus to our side. We are not saying that we are bigger as him. Of course not. But he's there for us. And not bringing him to us, I think it is a sign of pride. We don't want to admit that we need Him. So let's admit that we need Him. We need His strengths, right? We need His examples actually to improve every day. Strongly encourage you to take a read on this Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 17, item 3. We see this in so many places in the Gospel. Even Paul wrote to Timothy. Sounds like pretty much the same list, right? Pursue righteousness, do the right thing, do the good things. Pursue a godly life, a life connected to God. Faith, love, perseverance, gentleness, kindness, right? Very similar list. But let's remember this. The journey starts with the first step. So maybe from that long list, let's pick one thing. That's the homework for us. Let's observe ourselves and maybe pick one thing, and let's start preparing ourselves for next year. Maybe tackle that one thing. And maybe 2018 we're still on that one thing. Maybe 19 we're still on that thing. But if we live this lifetime getting one thing done, it's already a great accomplishment. That's how we should feel about it. We don't want to finish with a Mother Teresa or Chico Xavier, because it's not realistic. They have come a long way. We'll get there one day, but one step at a time. Okay? And let's have Jesus as our farol, our lighthouse. Right? I just wanted to finish with this image, because that's how we should feel about Him. Thank you very much. Maybe we have a few minutes for questions. Any questions on the internet, Livia? Okay, thank you so much. Any questions here from anyone or any comments? Okay, no one complaining on my exercise of bringing Jesus to my side. I trust you understood what I meant with that.
One of the things that you mentioned was to do to the others what we wish they would do to us. Is that do it. Just don't expect it. Just do it.
Yes.
If they will take it, if they won't take
Yeah.
it, how they will take it really doesn't matter. Just do it.
Yeah.
And don't expect anything back.
That's true. So Flavia is saying, by doing others what we would like others to do to us, if they don't reciprocate, we shouldn't sweat too much. We shouldn't worry too much, because everyone has his or her own time. Everyone has our time. Imagine Jesus when He came here looking at us. We didn't follow Him. We were like the ones criticizing Him. It's getting our time right now. We want to hear. We want to do it. We want to be better. We want to follow Him. It took a while. So the people that actually in our path that do not understand, do not reciprocate, do not love us back as we love them, they will have their time. One day they will understand. And I point back to what Jesus said. No one can take from us the happiness of have loved them as much as we could, to have give them everything we could, to have served them. And if we have served someone, if we have done something good to someone, we know how good it feels, right? So we rather be serving and not be corresponded than be still hurting people around or hating people around. That time is past for us. Right? Thanks, Flavia. So thanks everyone. Thanks everyone on the internet connected. Appreciate your presence. We are going to end now as we prepare our room for the passes. We wish you a great week. Thank you very much.